Yeah, thank you, Gay, Nat, Jen, the team, and also I guess a big thank you to the Audio Council for both your curiosity, but also your courage in commissioning this research. Because there are parts, Gay, you're right, that are groundbreaking, and we haven't done anything like this around the world ever. And I'll pinpoint what those points really are. But yeah, it really is a quest to go into land that we haven't ventured before, and we didn't know what we were going to get. But it is the, sorry to say, the cold hard facts. It is the neuroscience, and it's the data behind what's going on with audiences. I suppose you you might be thinking, well, why go to all this blooming bother? Why commission neuroscience to do this? It's because you may have heard that 95% of decision making is subconscious. It's outside of our conscious reach. So we can't ask people, what's going to motivate them. It's emotionally driven and it's subconsciously driven. And as it turns out, media content and creative content applies, the same rules apply. It's the way we engage and the way we grip onto media content and therefore advertising is beyond our conscious reach as well. We simply don't know. But I think there's a third reason here which is particularly pertinent to today, and that is if you think about audio and how it's consumed, it's by and large a very passive, very, very passive medium. Some can be more gripping and more lean in, as we'll see. Some's lean back and check out and relax. But just because it's that and because it's passive, it doesn't mean that it's not powerful. And we've seen plenty of cases where audio, surprise, surprise, has really kicked an ad. And we've sort of managed to optimise it. So there's a lot of parallels with what Ralph and Andy were saying earlier, which I hope you sort of see in this too. So that's why we're going to all this trouble. A little bit of background on us. SST, steady state topography, is a unique technology that we use all around the world as Neuro-Insight. We work with media companies to look at the grip and engagement, and we work with advertisers to optimise their creative effectiveness. And we firmly believe that creativity is at least 50% of the bargain, if not more. Some advertisers say up to 70%. So it's a very, very important component. And when you bring the two together, media and message, which is what we'll do today, you really can create some magic. Passive, but very, very powerful. Subconscious, in the moment. And that last point behind me, importantly, we'll be talking about engagement and memory encoding. And with memory encoding specifically, there's about an 86% correlation between our metrics and in-market performance of advertising, which is really important because we're going to be saying a few things here, and I wouldn't expect you to just say, okay, is that a fact? It's all validated, it's all backed up, and there's plenty of support behind this report if you are curious as well. So the metrics, we measure about 5 or 6 different metrics. Like the brain's pretty specialised, and there are certain sites that have certain jobs, but the two most important parts of brain activity from an advertising effectiveness point of view is actually left brain memory, which is what we'll call today memorability, and right brain memory, which is what we'll call narrative connection. And it's just so important, speaking of that 86%, that's where that 86% comes from, that validated link between higher levels of memory and higher performance in market. The reverse is true. If your ad doesn't get into memory, then it actually doesn't exist in the mind of the consumer, and it can't even start to work and do the job that you'd intended it to do. Good media or bad media, who cares? So that's really, really important. The third measure we'll be referring to is engagement, which is what we'll call personal relevance. If it's engaging or gripping, personal relevance is the third and very, very closely correlated measure. A bit of the background before we get into the fun stuff. This is basically what we did. Obviously, looking at the data, we all know the popularity of entertainment, and now I can see why the IAB and the council chose to contrast entertainment with true crime. So they're poles apart in audience, in the rate at which they're supported in the ad spend. But I think you'll find some surprising data in this that again. Thank you for the curiosity and the courage of actually using neuro to unlock what you're just about to see. But two pretty typical examples of the genre, true crime and entertainment. Very, very typical ads that you'd see in podcasting anywhere all day long, followed up by a survey, all evenly rotated, served on the device that it's normally consumed in, and all this data is acquired in the moment. So it's real time, it's in the moment. You haven't even got time to think about it, let alone ask a question. So what we found, if you start from left and go to right, engagement or personal resonance, narrative connection and memorability. The middle and the far right are derived from long-term memory encoding. And if you just line up true crime with entertainment, that's where they sit. So the bottom line here is that compared to our global benchmarks of about 0.58, they all hit and exceed that ad benchmark straight up and down. So that's what you get all day long in both genres. The other thing is that they're very, very line ball in themselves. Now, there will be variations in this data as we unlock and as we recategorise the ads, but that's pretty much how the first and, probably the biggest outcome landed. But now we're starting to get into some really interesting territory in which what I really like, and that's the transference, because the data beforehand was basically the grip of the program content itself. And we've seen for a long time now this issue of transference from the program content into the ad break content. So what you're looking at here is now true crime, and the left-hand data point is basically the last 30 seconds of the program, followed by the whole ad break. So there is some variation, but there's a very, very strong link or correlation between what's set up in program and what flows into the ad break. So if you're thinking about tuning into the creative and the fabric of a program, this is what you're going to get, is a very, very strong correlation between what the program sets up, just from a numbers and a numeric point of view, engagement and memory encoding. What is interesting, though, is that the setup of these two genres are very, very different, and true crime takes a while to set up, and then you really sort of launch into it. So you can just imagine as you go deeper into true crime, which the study didn't afford us to do, what that could potentially do, because the second ad break is really, really powerful and, well and truly hits the benchmark. So if we pull back a little bit and now start to compare ad break for ad break or all ads for all ads, this is the data you're looking at. The only exclusion to this was the initial live read. All that's in the report for your reading pleasure later. But essentially, this is what's going on out there in the wild right now. If you just compare entertainment and all ads in entertainment versus all ads in true crime, pretty much either on benchmark, a little over, or just under in terms of just everyday ads, which is what we call pre-recorded or traditional 30-second ads, the stuff that Ralph and team were talking about a little earlier. I might just return back to this concept of transference, because this is where I think the study really took a turn for something really interesting and intriguing. Again, we didn't know what we'd find. All the respondents who are consumers of both genres of podcasts were asked to expand in any way they like on the motivation behind listening to that particular genre. So on the right-hand side, you've got entertainment, and I don't think there's any surprises here at all. Like, you've got fun, entertainment, escapism, relax, chill out type of thing. And respondents were invited to basically give us words, give us sentences, give us anything they like. And the word cloud concept says that the words that were most common to the group are the biggest, or are the most defining of that motivation. But on the left-hand side, and I'm so glad we did this in the end, because on the left-hand side, we've got not what I would have thought true crime was about, and this is where the intrigue starts to come in. And I think if you read interesting, understanding human behaviour, leaning in, gripped, unpicking the story behind the story, all of a sudden you've got this. Can you see that audience? Can you see the fabric of that program content? And can you imagine that colouring the way the creative and the ads, the branding and the messaging is being stacked? Completely different. And this is the trick to, as audiences become more and more elusive, I think the shelf life on this and what you're about to see next is going to be around for years and years to come. And if I've got anything to do with it, this is one of my favourite topics about how to leverage and find the competitive advantage that can't be seen through the obvious data. So curiosity, the story behind the story, unlocking, leaning in, interest, consumer behaviour, people. Why do we do what we do? And if you think of what we've just about heard from a creative point of view, advertising that had elements of that, curiosity, problems followed by solutions, is the trick. Not necessarily the most obvious product fit to do with safety or crime prevention, but a whole lot more going on behind the scenes. And this is the new news. This is what we believe is the global first, because we really have never gone out to put two genres head to head in this way, and we've never really gone out to say, righto, what's actually going on? So what you're seeing here is time series data for a 30-second ad. It's in the finance category, so it wasn't skewed to either one genre or another. We leant over backwards to make sure that this was an everyday finance ad. 30-second time series data for memory encoding. Now remember, memory, that the higher the better. We always optimise ads to get high levels of memory at messaging and branding, the same old trick. But the areas shaded, now essentially what I'm saying here is that ad performs about the same in both genres because the time series pretty much ticks along. There's no significant difference, except for the two areas where I've highlighted. So the solid orange line is the performance of that ad in true crime, and the dotted line is the performance of the same ad in entertainment. So why did they diverge so wildly in those shaded areas? We went in, we looked, we ran it backwards and forwards, and lo and behold, the audio at that point in time on the left, when it overperformed in entertainment, was about light-hearted banter. Bit of fun, bit of casual sort of, setup of the problem. Very, very close to the fabric of the genre it's in. And you can see where I'm going with this, can't you? A problem was created, a financial problem, and lo and behold, the area in which it pulled apart significantly in true crime was the moment the problem was solved, the solution, the details about what I get, the facts and figures, the interest rate, the terms and conditions, funnily enough, the solution. So that's the trick, and this is what I think's got enormous, enormous shelf life. The fact that neuro fundamentally has proven that there's a transference of all of these juicy ingredients from program to ad break, memory, engagement, all this sort of stuff. But now we're looking at the environmental attributes colouring the way your ad is being processed as well. Really, really interesting stuff. And the trick here, if you really want to take this to market, is to align as close as you can those comments and words, those themes, with both your message and your brand. Because as you can see, you're never guaranteed a continuous level of engagement or memory. And that's just a fact of life. That happens in every medium, in every state, in every neuro state. So the trick would be to sort of lead that and propel that momentum that you create into your messaging and branding, and then you're home. But hopefully that opens up a world of opportunity beyond the assumption that I just have to match product for product. Food product in food show, lipstick in a lipstick show, wasn't it? Anyway, this is not the first time we've seen this, and back in the hurly-burly of the COVID days, back in 2020, I think it was, we had the fortune of working with the IAB, and at a time when the engagement in the news was sky high and advertisers were running for the hills. All their money was evaporating quicker than we knew what. And we thought, well, let's test this. And lo and behold, we found that the environmental attributes of COVID news, whether it was hard, related or lifestyle, 3 different genres, actually came up as timely, trustworthy and connected. So let's blow up those myths. Let's please be a little more curious with what's going on in the fabric of program content. And now you've seen for the first time ever how one ad can completely be transformed and shaped as a function of the fabric of these environmental attributes, as well as engagement, memory, and all the usual goodies. Anyway, the rest is for your reading pleasure. I think I'm on time, Gay. Hopefully I haven't stretched the friendship. Thank you so much for your keen interest in this as well, okay?